What does it mean when your ex asks you for space? How do you handle that kind of situation if you want to get back together with them? Well, those are the questions that I'll be answering right here in this video. I'm Breakup Brad. I'm a best-selling author and breakup coach from Vancouver, Canada. And you can learn more about me and my proven psychological tips to get your ex back at breakupbrad.com. Now, let's dive inside your ex's brain and talk about what it means when they tell you they want space. Let's start with situations where your boyfriend or girlfriend has asked for space, but you're still officially together. So in other words, they haven't committed to a full-on breakup, but they are asking for a break or for some time to think things over for themselves. Now, most people tend to handle this kind of situation very poorly, unfortunately, and they end up doing the opposite of what they should do. Because the natural instinct when your partner asks for space or a break is to get scared and try to stop the break from happening. Now, you can't do this. If your partner wants a break or some time apart, you really have to give them what they're asking for. The more you try to reel them back in and ignore their request for space, so that could mean things like contacting them even when they've clearly said that they don't want to hear from you for a while, for example, you just have to give them what they want and back off for a while. In this kind of situation, you have plenty of reasons to be optimistic for your potential future together, if you actually give them the time and space that they're asking for. In a lot of cases, this really is just your ex trying to decide if the relationship still has a future. And trying to convince them that you do still belong together with words in this kind of situation will usually make matters worse and probably further confirm their fears that things are coming to a natural end. Now, there are also situations where your boyfriend or girlfriend asking for space or a break is actually their way of trying to break up with you without actually having to go through the pain of a real breakup. This is unfortunately also quite common, but the solution is the same, at least in the short term. You need to respect their wishes, back off, and go no contact for a while. If you've recently been dumped and you're not sure what your chances are of ever getting back together, well, please take 3 minutes and complete my free quiz at breakupbrad.com/quiz. When you complete the quiz, you'll get a score that breaks down your chances and tells you what you need to do next to maximize your odds of getting them back. Again, go to breakupbrad.com/quiz to take the quiz for free. Now, I'm sure many of you are watching this are in a position where you've already broken up, maintained some form of contact with your ex since the breakup, and now they're saying that they need some time and some space apart. Guess what? The story here is the same. You need to give them that space, effective immediately, with no exceptions. The more you try to tighten your grip on the situation and stop your ex from slipping away, the more they'll feel like you're disrespecting their wishes, and the more you look like a desperate and clingy loser. Now, in my best-selling X Factor program, which you can learn about at breakupbrad.com, I talk a lot about attractive and unattractive traits, and how you exhibiting those traits can make you more or less appealing as a romantic partner in the eyes of your ex. Being desperate, clingy, and needy, traits that you're all clearly, exhibiting when you fail to respect your ex's request for space, are some of the most unattractive traits out there. So if you chase your ex, ignore their wishes to be left alone, try to pester them or smother them with affection, it's only going to kick the can down the road and further hurt your chances. Now that means, as we've already discussed earlier, you have to go along with their request for some time apart. You can't try to reach out, especially in the first few weeks after they make it clear that they don't want to hear from you. So do not try to talk your way back into their good books or change their mind about taking some time apart. Instead, do immediately engage in a period of indefinite no contact. In a second, I'll talk about how long you need to employ no contact for in this kind of situation. But for now, please just understand that this is essential if you want to preserve your chances of getting them back in the long run. There's two main reasons why your ex will ask for some time apart after a breakup. Number one is because you've already bugged and pestered them to the point where they just can't handle it anymore. Now, this is obviously not the boat that you want to fall into, because it means that you've already exhibited a lot of those unattractive traits that I mentioned earlier. Things like clinginess, desperation, and just overall needy behavior. It means that you've gone too far down the road of trying to chase after your ex, and they just don't want to deal with it anymore. In this case, I'm sure some of you watching will probably see this is likely what's going on now with your ex right now. it's even more important to double down on a period of no contact and start respecting their wishes. I know it's really difficult to do, especially when you feel like they're slowly slipping away, but anything you try to do at this point, other than actually shutting down all communication with them for a period of time, is just going to dig a deeper hole and put you in a worse and worse position. Now, the second reason is because they're trying to get over you and your breakup, and contact with you causes them to become emotional or have doubts. Now, in this kind of scenario, your ex is actually asking for space in order to help them get over you. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, being constantly reminded of your ex after a breakup can be painful. It can bring up emotions, heartache, and so on. So, asking for space is their way of trying to avoid being reminded and rehashing those emotions. And it's also likely that they fear the pain and heartache and that they feel will actually tempt them to change their mind and agree to take you back, even though they know logically that breaking up was the right decision. Now, this may all sound like good news and make you assume that you should remind them of yourself by ignoring their request for space. But this is not the case. And in fact, it's still important in this kind of situation to employ a period of no contact and respect your ex's wishes. I know it's going to be hard, but there's one thing that will make your ex want you back even more than if you continually remind them that you're still around. And that is for them to miss you like crazy. And the most effective way to make someone miss you is to disappear from their life completely. So again, you still need to respect their request for space and time apart, even if you feel like they're only saying so because they don't want to give in to their heartache and take you back. Trust me, it's going to be a lot more likely that they'll make that decision on their own when you employ no contact and actually give them the space that they're asking for than if you disrespect their request and continue trying to talk to them. In fact, if you do take that route, you'll often end up finding yourself in situation number one that I described above, where your ex will end up wanting even more space because they feel like you're pestering and annoying them by being needy and clingy. All right, hopefully by now I've convinced you that regardless of the specific details of your situation, you need to do what your ex is asking and avoid talking to them for a period of time. But you may now be wondering how long you need to actually ignore them for. How will you know when it's okay to reach out again? Well, first of all, for most of you watching, and I say this based off of 13 years of experience as a breakup coach, working with tens of thousands of people in your situation, your ex will be the one to break the silence. You won't need to do it yourself. They'll eventually cave and reach out to you on their own, especially if you didn't make a lot of mistakes, such as begging and pleading, before you began a period of no contact. In fact, just off the top of my head, I'd guess that this is the case in at least 80-85% of breakups. You don't need to reach out. Your ex is going to do it themselves. And at that point, then you have a green light to slowly start reestablishing contact and regular communication again. Now, you'll still need to play your cards correctly, so I definitely advise you to watch my full video tutorial at breakupbrad.com right after this video is over. But when your ex does start talking to you again on their own accord, that's when you can safely assume that they've had enough time and space. Now, if you fall into the 15 or 20% of people who won't hear from their ex, where they don't reach out to you on their own, well, unfortunately, this is not a good sign for your chances of getting them back in the long run. That doesn't mean that it's definitely over for good. You can take my free quiz at breakupbrad.com/quiz to confirm how desperate your situation really is, but it is unfortunately not usually a good situation. So my advice for this kind of situation will depend, on the exact specifics of your breakup, but as a general rule, you should employ a full month of no contact before you try to reach out. 30 days is usually long enough that your ex won't feel that you're disrespecting their wishes for space by that point, and waiting longer than that can sometimes be dangerous. So I recommend, and again, this is just a general guideline for most situations, you can try to contact your ex after a month or so. Now, if you have made a ton of mistakes already before you employed no contact, if your ex really seemed angry or frustrated at you in your attempts to continually talk to them after breaking up, in spite of their obvious desire for space, you may not get a positive response after 30 days of no contact. And in that case, you need to go back into another period of silence for at least a couple more weeks before you try again. So be patient and make sure that you don't exhibit the same needy and unattractive traits that led you to this situation in the first place. Now, if you're facing this kind of particularly unique or unusual situation and you want a second opinion on how to best proceed in order to maximize your chances, please visit breakupbrad.com/coaching and sign up for my one-on-one ongoing coaching to work with me and ensure that you have a plan that will eventually lead you back into your ex's arms. Don't forget to click like and subscribe, please, and leave your questions and comments below the video. I always read your comments and respond to as many as I can. Thanks a ton for watching to the end, guys, and best of luck out there.